Hello and welcome into the ReMix. I'm Chris Tanaka. Hey, a famous face from the 90s pulling back the curtain on his time as a childhood star. We're talking about Jaleel White, who played Steve Urkel on the sitcom Family Matters. He stopped by the CBS News Boston studios to talk about his new book and a new game show he's hosting. Hey, joined now by one of the most recognizable stars from TV sitcoms in the 90s, Jaleel White. He's out with a new book, a memoir that just dropped on the 19th. Thank you so much for being here. This is an honor.
Dude, thank you for having me.
You're busy, I know, going around promoting this book. You are leaning into your signature character, Steve Urkel, who I think people like synonymous with Jaleel White. Why the lean in so hard on this memoir?
You know what? I had a lot of questions that people ask me all the time, and they've asked me for decades now.
Yeah.
And when I started writing answers to those questions, I realized I had enough for a book proposal. And Simon & Schuster could not have been more welcoming.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. I got introduced to them by a company called the AP Brand Group. And from there, it was just a triangle of a love fest. And over a year's time, we put this thing together, and I'm thrilled. It ended up being a book about humility. And really going from being humble to being aware.
Okay.
A lot of things I actually saw when I was a kid and was probably processing on an adult level, but I was growing up in the 90s when adults could do no wrong, so it's like you stay in a child's place.
Yeah.
And every story I share has a life lessons really for you out there, and that's really what it's about.
Oh, this is fascinating. A wise man once told me there's two types of people on the planet, those who are humble and those who are about to be.
This guy, he didn't tell me he was a rapper. He's dropping bars.
Dude, you grew up in the spotlight, famous around the world. Humility, what is the focal point of it in your book? And it's not easy growing up in the spotlight.
Yeah, no, it's I have a chapter in there called entitled I don't even have to say the word, bleep. And it's one of my favorite chapters where I go back home with my parents and I have a Thanksgiving dinner and my mom pops in an old VHS tape of us staying at the penthouse at the Plaza Hotel.
Oh, man.
And I couldn't watch any more than about 5 minutes of that tape, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody likes necessarily talking about what they were in middle school. So just add fame to that. And, you know, it's a fun thing to look back on with my parents, though, but in a healthy way. And I want to give my parents their flowers for everything that they did.
100%. You've stayed busy, you've stayed active, you are in the American consciousness, but you did turn down a reboot, correct, of Family Matters?
Actually, that's wrong. I didn't turn down.
You didn't turn it down?
No,
okay.
I was only offered a blind contract at half my old salary with no script and no writing producers attached.
Oh my gosh.
So just sign here and we'll go make the show selling and, you know, tell you what you're going to be doing.
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, even yourself. So that, you know, that happened many years ago. I don't hold any grudge about it, but I like to get out there and clear it up because people make it seem like there are all these people lined up to work and go back and do the thing exactly the way we did it. And that's not what they were paying for anyway. So the book is what I envision actually for perhaps a show in the future.
Okay.
I just feel like using me as a canvas for real 90s nostalgia, when you used to get a girl's number on a napkin, when you had the old answering machines by your bed, when it was a big thing for a kid to have a phone in their bedroom. Yeah. You know, that's what I think the legacy of Family Matters should be used for, is to go back in the 90s and have some fun.
I'll tell you what, Family Matters was one of those, you kind of captured something. You really did.
Yeah.
Some magic in a bottle with the cast, the way you integrated the character, obviously. Tell me about auditioning for Urkel. How did you prepare? How'd you land that?
You know, the audition process was really simple. I actually I popped in a tape from the Best of Saturday Night Live, and I was just a black kid that was imitating Ed Grimley. That's it.
Come on.
Yeah, that's it.
No kidding.
And nobody noticed really.
And then he was so.
And then he becomes my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Do you feel a weight or a responsibility in that so many people grew up with Steve and the family and, you know, Reginald being America's dad?
You know what? I don't feel a weight at all. If anything, I love turning the corner and just being kind of like this nostalgic shot of joy for everybody.
Yeah.
It wasn't always that way in my 20s, and I talk about that in the book. But especially when my daughter got here, you know, I'm not a bad dad to be picking her up in carpool. And I just want to continue to just enjoy be a conduit for people to enjoy what the 90s really were. in their purest form.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why being a game show host is so fun for me.
Now, let's talk about Flip Side.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. New game show out. It is on our sister station, SBK, every night, 11:30.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy kind of being yourself and not acting? Because it's a different role, obviously.
Yeah, I actually hosted a game show called Total Blackout back in 2012. So, and I do 25 words or less all the time with Meredith Vieira. So I didn't even realize I was planting the seeds for this particular opportunity, though. And we ask one question to one group of people, and then we ask the flip side of that question to another group of people. Doctors and patients, flight attendants and passengers. Easy show to play, $10,000 to the winner.
Yeah.
Anybody who thinks they're good enough, come on down. I want you on as a contestant. I just love relating to the guests. It's a tiring gig sometimes, but because just of the volume of shows. But it's just something I enjoy, especially as they start getting closer to winning. You start getting, because not everybody's gonna have the best chance to win.
Yeah.
But you can sense, this couple can do it.
So let me ask you, obviously when you're in character, you are acting, you're on.
Yeah.
When you're hosting a game show, do you, like, lights come on, do you have to be on, or is it just Jaleel having fun with people?
Completely different. Like, it's hosting and acting are two completely different skill sets, but you still got to, it's the same chemistry that I would foster with another actor.
Yeah.
I have to foster with two contestants who I've never met.
Who you've never met. All walks of life.
Exactly.
We're probably looking at you like, oh my gosh, I'm in the same room
So
as
it's
Jaleel
a
White.
similar but separate skill set. And I'm just saying, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. All right. So there's a lot of you out right now, and then the real you just needs to go and get some rest because you're on this huge book tour.
I'm pretty rested right now,
This is what an awesome read. Dropped on the 19th. Growing Up Urkel. That ain't Steve Urkel on the cover. That is 100% Jaleel White. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Awesome.
And continued success. You're awesome. And best of luck on both ventures. Jaleel White in the studio.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hey, we're cooking up some Thanksgiving stuffing, but there's a twist. How you can make this delicious oyster stuffing when we come back.
Hey, this is Jaleel White, and you are watching The ReMix.
All right, Thanksgiving, it is upon us. And sure, the most important thing is gathering with family, but the meal is a close second. We've got something new when it comes to what to do with the stuffing. We are joined now by Chef Patrick Lipscomb doing some incredible stuff at Alcove and Hook and Line. Beautiful stuff, Chef. Today we are preparing some Thanksgiving food.
We are.
But first, before we get going on that, wanted to ask you about your restaurants. Tell us a little bit, anyone who hasn't dined.
Alcove is right next to the TD Garden and Hook and Line.
Yeah.
And the H&L Market are right in the Seaport.
So not everyone wants to spend 3 hours doing something they can't do as well as you do it.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And I think, for instance, we have this gravy right here.
Yeah. Oh.
I think
I can help out with this.
Absolutely. Please stir. A lot of people forget the gravy and the turkey. You forget the turkey for a moment. It's a little too dry, and the gravy is the saving grace.
Right.
But if you forget the gravy, then there's really no saving grace. So I mean, your best bet is to come have us make it for you. This one's amazing. Tons of Armagnac, mushrooms.
Wow.
There's a little shio-koji and miso. Super.
Oh my gosh.
Super rich.
The
reduction.
color of this thing is so rich. It's amazing. I can't even imagine what the flavor is. So everyone has the traditionals. You got your turkey, the cranberries, the potatoes. You today are making some stuffing, but elevated.
Yes. So this is an oyster stuffing or an oyster bread pudding. It's kind of like comes from several different things, like making bread pudding as a kid with my dad, and him always making some sort of seafood stuffing. So it became both things together, really.
So what do we got going on? Tell us what we got.
So we got some
you
leeks.
are like a whirling dervish right now.
We got some leeks, sweat out. We have some Pernod, which is an anise liqueur.
Yeah.
And then we got cream, little turkey stock, a bunch of lightly smoked oysters.
Fantastic.
So we got some Parmesan.
Yeah, right into that
into
egg.
these eggs. Some thyme, parsley, rosemary.
Yeah.
And then we got a little bit of roasted garlic.
And you're just cranking.
Yeah.
So what a lot of people might not know at home is that when you're in the role of a chef, a lot of times you've got to manage the business side, and you don't get to be on the line as much as you like preparing foods. Kind of like being a head coach versus a position coach, right? The position guys do all the coaching. The head coach has got to be the administrator. Do you still find time to get behind the line at your restaurants?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's at Alcove or at Hook and Line, I'm there every single
Yeah.
day.
That's amazing. And cooking in a professional environment, that chaos that you talked about. I mean, when a kitchen is going full tilt on a Friday or Saturday, it is a chaotic symphony of activity back there.
A lot of people assume that chefs don't like to cook
right
at home.
But you do.
Absolutely. I mean,
can you, I mean, when you go to like dinner parties and stuff, is it just like having to bite your tongue that people aren't as good as doing what you do? Like,
No. You don't want to be a jerk about it. You know?
Right. It's got to be pressure hosting you for dinner and drinks.
I mean, no.
It's like playing pickup basketball with a member of the Celtics. Like, yeah, it'll be fun.
So what I've done here is we tempered all of our cream and eggs together, and then we added all the bread, little black pepper,
Okay.
a little salt, and then we kind of just want to mush it together. You want to make one homogeneous texture.
Yeah.
And then...
And this clearly will be baked separate. It's not an internal stuffing as
no, so this
many people prepare, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is going to be slowly baked in the oven, which is going to come out looking just like this.
Wow.
So what we've done is we've cooked it so that there's one homogeneous texture and it's a nice custardy filling.
Yeah.
This is going to go into the oven in a little water bath.
Amazing.
And then just turn this guy out.
No kidding.
We got that. And then...
And the flavor of this, because you have oysters, you've got this egg wash. I feel like stuffing is usually just kind of, most American stuffing, basic, right?
Yes.
It's going to go with anything. But this is still going to match a turkey dinner that you're preparing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like something I never really understood about stuffing is a lot of times it's either too dry or too wet.
Yeah,
You know?
100%, absolutely.
And for this, it's already the perfect custard. Like I do the same thing with French toast. I make a bread pudding and then I sear the bread pudding like that because it's already the perfect custard.
Look at that gravy. That is, dare I say, perfect gravy, which
well,
I've never known to exist before.
You may dare. So
look at that.
Just like that.
Oh
Smoked
my
oyster bread
gosh.
pudding with our gravy.
That's happiness on a plate. All right, we're going to have to take a sample of this, Chef.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic.
Here. Let me move this out of your way.
All righty.
Go right in.
I'm a little nervous. Wow, thank you. That's amazing.
That's delicious.
Oh my gosh, that is spectacular. Chef, thank you so much for stopping by, and thank you for making many, many people's Thanksgiving dinners so much better this year. And don't forget Alcove, Hook and Line as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get those orders in Sunday and Monday. Chef Patrick Lipscomb, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm having dreams about that. Hey, chronicling the lives of Nigerian immigrants across the decades in America. Coming up, the Boston production that celebrates one family in 9 different plays that'll be performed over the next 2 years. This next story, really amazing. It's an epic effort to tell a sprawling story of a Nigerian family growing up in America. 9 different plays are going to lay out their tale over the span of 2 years. Kevin Becerra from the Huntington Theatre sat down with our Paula Eben to explain this remarkable production.
We're joined now by Kevin Becerra, who is the Associate Director of Artistic Programming and Activation at the Huntington Theatre. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us about this extraordinary play, Sojourners. It is a 9-play cycle featuring the work of a Nigerian playwright.
Yes.
So what's the background?
So Sojourners is the origin story of the Ufot family. And the Ufot family cycle is 100 years of their family kind of history and impact in the United States. So the playwright is Mfaniso Udofia, who grew up in Southbridge, Massachusetts. And she's writing a story of diaspora that connects to so many different experiences, right? That we're a country of diasporic immigrants, many of us. And this piece follows specifically the kind of a matriarch and her husband arriving in Houston, Texas in 1978 for school. They've come to get their degree and get back to Nigeria. It's a really exciting time in Nigeria in 1978. And so they're gonna go back with an education and make the country better. And then, you know, her husband discovers Motown, she starts making friends, and maybe the plan isn't exactly gonna work out the way they thought it was.
They decide they like the United States.
Yeah, I think they decide, they find that the United States is offering something or is complicating their lives in a way that they weren't quite anticipating. It's amazing. People come and see the show and they're like, what happens next?
Yeah, it sounds like a very ambitious project.
It's huge.
I mean, has anything like this been attempted before? How does the play progress in the 9 cycle?
Yeah, so we can't do it alone. It's so big. And has it been done before? And nothing comes to mind. I mean, if you think about, you know, it's a citywide project, truly. There's over 35 organizations that have joined us in this. Other theaters, universities, cultural centers, organizers, artists who are just really passionate about big scale thinking happening in Boston's arts ecosystem. And so it's gonna take 2 years to do all 9 plays. And they're all super different. So this one is kind of a traditional 4-person drama. The next play feels like Greek spectacle. The third is a podcast. The 9th is an opera. There's a children's play that Boston Arts Academy is producing over the next summer. And so it really is this huge kind of cornucopia of offerings that it's taking a huge portion of the city to pull off.
Mayor Wu honored her in a special way. Tell us about that.
Oh my God, it was so nice. So opening night, we had this huge celebration, packed house, supporters of the cycle, the other organizations, a really enthusiastic audience. And Karen Holmes Ward and Imari Paris Jeffries read the mayor's proclamation, making November 6, 2024 Mfaniso Udofia Day. And it was just a kind of magical, warm send-off, and the audience lost their minds. I was up out of my seat.
And they loved it. So how can people get tickets if they want to see the play?
You can get tickets at huntingtontheatre.org.
Also,
I want to name that we're actually moving the show around the city. So we're doing pop-up performances in Hyde Park. We did one in Hyde Park last week, East Boston, Roxbury, and in Worcester at College of the Holy Cross. So we are doing our best to make this as accessible as possible, but if you can't make it to a pop-up, we're on Huntington Avenue through December 1st.
Interesting. So you said it's going to take 2 years.
Yeah.
So when will the next cycle premiere?
So the next show, The Grove, opens in February, and it's also at the Huntington at the Calderwood Pavilion in the South End. And that is called The Grove, and it is the story of Abasiama's daughter. So you're already moving through, I think you jump something like 20, 25 years. And kind of see what happens next. It really feels like an epic Netflix-style cycle of stories.
Right, and you know, nowadays people are so isolated at homes or behind screens or on their phones. It's great to be part of a long-term project where you're going to enjoy it watching live with other people.
Yeah, we get to build relationships not only with the characters, but with our fellow audience members and the organizations that are bringing it together.
That's great. Kevin Becerra from the Huntington Theatre, thanks so much. It's an exciting project for Boston to just pioneer.
Thank you. We're really proud. Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
Incredible stuff. All right, ahead, looking at the life of one of the most influential TV producers of all time. Next on the ReMix, an author with local ties discusses his book about Norman Lear, the man behind All in the Family and the Jeffersons and more. Welcome back. Chronicling the career of one of the most talented, certainly groundbreaking television producers of all time. Author and Emerson College educator Tripp Whetsell wrote a biography about Norman Lear. He's the man behind All in the Family, the Jeffersons, so much more. Whetsell says Lear's story is inspiring and certainly one of a kind. Hey, we're joined now by author Tripp Whetsell. He is the force behind this new book about the life of television magnate, producer Norman Lear. Tripp, thanks so much for being here and really chronicling the life of a seminal figure in American pop culture for decades. For anyone who doesn't know about Norman Lear, you're the biographer. Who is Norman Lear?
Well, he was the man who changed television with a string of groundbreaking sitcoms in the 1970s that were the first to deal with topical issues from race to religion to politics to you name it. All of them, most of them predominantly airing here on CBS, beginning with All in the Family in 1971.
Yeah, and these were, as you mentioned, race. I mean, some of the lead characters weren't necessarily what you would think of in TV's early days as dashing, right, upstanding, handsome figures.
That's correct. They all had
broke boundaries.
They broke boundaries that had never been broken before.
Yeah.
Never been broken before. And, you know, he was in the right place at the right time when he did it, because television was changing. CBS in particular wanted to change because they had many rural shows on television at that time, like the Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres and Petticoat Junction, and they were looking to sort of change and, you know, have a more modern image and attract younger viewers. So he was in the right place at the right time with the right thing. But it took him a while to get the shows on the air at first.
Yeah. You go from those placid rural settings, and all of a sudden you got Archie Bunker and the Jeffersons.
Right.
Hello, America.
Hello, America.
Incredible. So you live in Manhattan, but you're an affiliated faculty member of Professor and Media Studies at Emerson?
Yes.
Okay, so what's that all about?
Well, we have the first and only comedy major in the country at Emerson College, thanks to an incredible woman named Marty Cook, who started the program about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And she gave me a wonderful opportunity after I did my last book on the Improv Comedy Club to teach at Emerson. I'm a graduate of Emerson myself. 1994, I teach a class also in the history of stand-up comedy. And I said, why don't we do a class on Norman Lear? Because Norman went to Emerson. We have a scholarship in his name on our Boston campus here. He was very loyal to the college, loved the college for many years, even though he didn't actually finish there. But he's had big ties to Boston and to Emerson. He spent a lot of his childhood in Boston.
Yeah.
He was born in New England, but lived in Chelsea, Massachusetts. And so I said, why don't we do a class on Norman Lear? And they said yes, and as a result of that, this is how the book came about, in a very roundabout way. When my agent told this publisher, Applause Books, about the class, I said, oh, let's do a book about Norman. But I'd wanted to write a book about Norman for many years, but it finally happened this way.
About the book itself, what can readers find in this book?
Well, I'd like to say that it is it's the first comprehensive biography of Norman. He wrote his memoir back in 2014, and there were several books about his All in the Family and some of his shows, but this is the first comprehensive biography looking at his entire life and career and examining it in its full totality, from his birth in 1922 to his death last year at 101. And I try to look at, you know, what drove him, what formed him. Yeah. His early days as a comedy writer in the early days of live television, the evolution of his sitcoms, the genesis of his sitcoms, some of the behind-the-scenes struggles he had getting him on the air, and struggles he had with some of the actors like Carol O'Connor and people, and you know, things like that. So it looks at everything in full totality, I think. So I like to think of it as the whole kitchen sink and an objective look.
Yeah. Okay, that's important.
Yes.
Because you said you grew up idolizing this guy.
I did.
Did you ever have any interactions with him?
I did. He did my class at Emerson twice on Zoom during the pandemic, which was wonderful. I met him when we dedicated our statue here in Boston back in 2018. I also interviewed him for the 40th anniversary of TV Guide, which is a real treat, and got to interview him when I did my last book on the improv, and we met for about an hour in New York. Unfortunately, wasn't able to participate in this book, but I did get a chance to meet him several times. He was just a wonderful, wonderful guy, and I use the term mensch, and he always made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. He would always say, you know, it's taken me a lifetime to get here, and I can't be any happier. He was just a terrific.
So
cool. He was a treasure.
Tripp, you're fascinating. You're a fascinating source yourself. Author of Norman Lear, His Life and Times, doing great work at Emerson. Apparently you can teach humor, maybe not people to be funny.
Yes, and we're looking for new students, so we'd love to have you at Emerson. Anyone who wants to major in comedy, please do.
Hey, great place, great setting, great school. Tripp, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a delight.
Absolutely. Great conversation. That book, something else. All right, thank you for joining us on the ReMix. We'll be back next week for more lifestyle, community, and entertainment news.